Hello everyone, so here we are with Android 4.4.2. Now this is a re-released version of Android 4.4.1. Originally Google found a few bugs, they fixed those bugs and re-released the update. So it's now time to actually have a good look at what's going on. Now, for all intents and purposes, the Nexus 5 camera has now been fixed. What Google have done is improved the autofocus dramatically, as well as the framing speed as well. So when you really take those pictures, you can burst through them now where you really couldn't before. The autofocus is so much quicker than it used to be. I mean, it's dramatically improved, and the color reproduction of the images is much better as well. As you can see, everything working pretty well, right up until the point where unfortunately the camera app did crash on me, and I was left with, well, just this kind of auto-focusing circle, but the actual image was not being updated within the camera app. Bit of a shame, but we'll put that down to me pressing the buttons too flipping quickly. What we've really discovered here with the Nexus 5 update is that originally the camera just wasn't set up properly by Google. They kind of dropped the ball a little bit there, really, in my opinion. But they've got the update out pretty quickly, you know, just over a month after the device was released, I think, and things are dramatically improved. As I say, that autofocus speed is much better than it used to be. The camera now feels responsive when you're using it. And as you can see, here's a before picture using 4.4.0 and after using 4.4.2. You can see that the white balance and the color reproduction is much better. There's a slight loss of quality in some images, in my opinion, but all of these were taken indoors. And so, you know, some of the sharpness just doesn't quite seem to be there in the later images. Again, this one before and after, you can see the saturation is dramatically improved in the second image. It's like looking at a completely different camera. And again here, these are full crops, so before and after. And you may just notice a slight drop in the fidelity of the second image, as it were. Again, blues, greens, the colours, the yellows, they're all popping where they really weren't before. This is probably one of the most dramatic images for the change, although, in my opinion, slightly oversaturated in the second image, and there's a little bit more ISO noise there than was available previously. Now again, we're just taking a look at the autofocus here, just sort of showing that, you know, the camera is more than capable of keeping up. There was never anything wrong with the hardware in the Nexus 5. In my opinion, the Nexus 5 delivers some of the most outstanding hardware ever to appear in a mobile phone at this price point. So great to see that software tweaks have fixed these issues. Now, this is video footage. Again, one of the issues that we were really seeing with the Nexus 5 camera with video footage was the autofocus just wasn't really working properly. You would move to a object with a different level of focus to the previous, and the camera would kind of sit there and not focus properly. It just didn't seem to be detecting the scene at all. Now things are much better. You no longer have to kind of tap to take a photograph to then trigger the camera to actually focus. Now it seems to meter the scene properly, looks at what should be in focus, the closest object usually, and gets the job done. And we found it to be much more responsive than it was previously. What I've done is dropped the raw footage that was actually captured by the camera onto the end of this video, so you can actually have a look, because what you're seeing here is actually taken through my capture system. So there's a slight loss in saturation and contrast when done like this. So you'll be able to see at the end exactly what the camera was capturing, and the quality is very good. Considering this is being filmed indoors with only a single light above me, very good. And obviously the window as well. But here's some HDR. Again, previously HDR was atrocious. It was too slow, which meant you ended up getting shake and you got poor quality images. Here we can see 1 second and it's done. So this is the native footage captured directly from the Nexus 5 video camera, as it were. And as you can see, the color reproduction is great. Its exposure response times are fast. There's not a huge amount of noise being introduced into the image from pumping the ISO or anything like that. It just works great now. One thing to note is the camera itself physically on the back of the device, I've noticed getting quite warm when I was taking these images and the video footage. Now that's nothing overly abnormal. It doesn't necessarily feel any warmer than it did with the previous update, just something worth mentioning really. If you notice that after taking a load of pictures or video, your Nexus 5 is a bit warm. That's why. It's actually the camera. It gets a bit hot. But overall, really, really pleased with what Google have done here for the Nexus 5. They've certainly managed to fix it just in time for Christmas. So if you're in the market for the Nexus 5 and the camera is important to you, then buy with confidence. It's working fine.